Activate.
All right, everybody. Welcome to This Pink Cloud. We are a show that is about multiple pathways to recovery, mental health, all that good stuff. I am DJ Kelly Reverb. Be sure, like, subscribe, all that mumbo jumbo. Speaking of farts, ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Chad Lamons.
Hey, everybody. Hey, guys. Hello. Hey.
Hey, how are you
Hey,
today,
hello.
Chad?
Hello. I just want to thank the building that we're in because they have a lot of amenities. And the amenities here are just fantastic. And this is called the Hello Studios. And they do a good job with the amenities.
They have amenities
they have coffee, they have tea, they have like Sprite and stuff. So if I get thirsty, I can drink the amenity stuff.
Like Oklahoma City, Oklahoma.
My favorite city that I've been to with good amenities, it's Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. But yeah, man. Hey, man, like and subscribe and do all that stuff, man.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got a room full of people in today. Ladies and gentlemen, I won't say that you're the Charlie Manson of recovery.
No.
I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say you're a fan of psychedelics and psychedelic therapy. I'm not going to say that.
He's doing a good job of not saying anything.
But yeah,
fabulous
but I'm
stuff.
just going to say, give it up for the King of the North. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Dusty Burrows.
Thanks, Kelly. It's good to be here,
How are you?
sharing the stage.
Yeah.
All these
Well, dude,
fabulous
thanks for
people.
coming out. Thanks for coming out, brother.
It's really fun.
What are you, why don't you tell everybody what you do?
I am a licensed professional counselor and a licensed chemical dependency counselor.
Okay.
In the Collin County and Denton County areas.
And you work where?
I work at Sessions Wellness Group in
Okay.
Flower Mound, and I work with Life Path Systems in Collin County.
Okay, good job.
Hell
you
yeah.
remembered that.
Good job.
did.
I put you on the spot and everything.
Yeah, what were their names?
Anyway, well,
I've never met them before.
Right? Yeah. Anyway,
I'll tell you
the
all about that
guest of the hour, I'm excited to have these young ladies in. They do their own podcast called Mindful Sobriety.
Right.
And we have Jane Ballard and Amanda Cable. Man, I'm good.
Good
That was
stuff.
That was
way better than
excellent.
Dusty.
I'm impressed.
Right? That hurt my brain to remember that much information.
Way better than I would do.
But yeah, thanks for coming out. I appreciate it. And I guess tell the folks about the backstory.
Yeah. So my name is Jane Ballard. I am a licensed clinical social worker. So similar to Dusty, I am a therapist in private practice. I work with women and men, but mostly women, and my specialties are eating disorders, body image, perinatal mental health,
Okay.
and in the last year and a half or so, I've been stepping into the sobriety space and the sober curiosity space. So
Okay.
Awesome.
I'm super excited to be here today.
Well, and you also abstain from alcohol, right?
That is right.
So-
I abstain from alcohol.
So was there any reason for that? Or, was it just a lifestyle choice?
Well, both.
Okay.
Yeah, so kind of crazy. I grew up in the 90s and probably looked like a typical teenager back then. Lots of,
Oh, you look like a teenager now.
oh, you're so sweet. I'll take it.
All right.
Lots of the typical partying in high school and college. And I would say after the pandemic, a lot of people started drinking more during the pandemic. And in that first year, I drank less. And now I've come to the conclusion that it's because I didn't really have to deal with social situations. I was, kind of enjoying being at home and
Right.
the quiet life. But then stuff started opening back up, and I was drinking a little bit more than I normally would have. And, I was also working with a therapist during this time, and had been doing a lot of spiritual work and kind of deconstructing some beliefs and reconstructing and looking at life and purpose. And I realized alcohol wasn't really fitting in. And he was like, well, why don't you just give it a break? Give it,
Right.
maybe 30, 60, 90 days off. And I was like, no. I like my red wine. I like my margaritas. I don't think that's necessary.
You're talking crazy, Doc.
Yeah. Yeah, but then, oddly enough, I had this epiphany moment one morning on a Monday morning, woke up and just, it's hard to describe, but it's like this veil was lifted and all of a sudden I could see what had always been there, but I just wasn't ready to see, I guess.
Sure.
That really life, I think, could be better without alcohol.
Sure.
And if I ever wanted to really achieve my purpose and use all the gifts and resources that I was given in this life, alcohol was going to get in the way of that.
Right.
And I don't want to just live a mediocre,
boring
life.
Well, you said something about, the anxiety and the social crutch aspect of it. And for me, I mean, that's really what it was. I learned how to self-medicate with the lovely alcohol.
Yes, the magical elixir.
And especially like when you're DJing and you have to perform in front of people.
Yes.
It's like, hey, let's make this right. So
Right.
yeah. And I mean, I think a lot of people get into it, innocent enough because, hey, it does work.
It works great in the short term,
It's just that long term.
It's the long term. It's, the next day when you wake up with anxiety and a headache and
Right. And then that's the other thing is I didn't realize that the short-term solution was the big problem.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. You never get this corrective emotional experience that, hey, I can be in a social setting and feel anxious, and then
it's okay.
about 20 minutes later, it's going to wear off, and I'm going to warm up without alcohol.
They don't tell you that on all the beer commercials. Right?
They left that part out.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I woke up at 43, mom of 3 kids, working full-time as a therapist and living life, and it just didn't really fit in anymore, so I gave it up.
Okay. Well, fair enough. Well, let's hear from Amanda over here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So I always say that
I
have a little bit of 2 different sober stories.
Okay.
So I was not the typical teenager.
Right.
I was like the classic girl that dated a drug dealer.
The bad girl.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, looking back, I was like a little gangster girl. It's so crazy to think about because that's just so out of alignment with who I actually am.
All right.
But so I did a bunch of drugs when I was a teenager, and then I got pregnant when I was 19.
Okay.
And he changed my life.
Okay.
And I never used drugs again after that. And then in my 20s, I would drink occasionally, was never problematic. And then in my 30s, we moved to a new city. I didn't really know anybody, and it became a social lubricant for sure. Mm-hmm. And then I just kind of started drinking wine.
Well, where'd you grow up, and then where did you move to?
Yeah, I grew up in Allen.
Okay.
And then we just moved to Granbury, which is about 2 hours
Okay,
away.
so not a full-on,
No.
state kind of relocation.
Right.
Okay.
So I started drinking wine at home, kind of keeping it in the house, drinking pretty regularly. I would say like 3 or 4 days a week.
Okay.
And it was never, like I would always say, I'm going to have 2 glasses. And then I would always end up drinking the whole bottle, and I would feel terrible the next day. And it was just this vicious cycle.
Sure.
And then one night, I had planned a party for my son for after homecoming, the homecoming dance. And I actually drank for several hours before I was supposed to have that party. And luckily, my friend was throwing this party with me, and she said, "Hey, you're drunk. You're visibly drunk. You need to go home."
Right.
And so I went home, which was like a street over from where the party was going to be at. And I kept drinking, and I woke up the next morning on my yoga mat, and I had never been to a point in my life where I felt suicidal, but at that point, I felt like my family would be better off without me.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so I knew that I had to change. I was terrified of going to rehab.
Yeah.
I don't know why that was so scary.
Well, okay, so they make it a dirty word. It's, it's stigmatized to where it's like shameful. And I'm like, I went to rehab, and I'm like, it's just, it's the you self-imposed kind of thing, but then also it's the, oh, she went to rehab, oh, she's got problems.
Yeah, and I think that's what I thought about. I thought, like, what if my son's friend's mom's here?
What does everybody else
Logan's
think?
mom's in rehab.
Yeah.
It's like you go to timeout or something.
Yeah.
And I had spent so many years running from my drug history and from all the times that I went to jail when I was younger. And I think that in my 30s when I was drinking, I was it was a way of coping with my past. Once again, it came back to haunt me.
Right.
And oddly enough, I did not end up going to rehab, but I think I got on Instagram and I just looked up sober or something like that.
Yeah.
And a bunch of sober accounts came up, and honestly, social media really helped me get sober.
Yeah.
I connected with a lot of sober women and started going to a group called Sobasistas online meetings.
Okay.
Became really good friends with the leader of Sobasistas, Megan. And it changed my life.
Right.
Very cool.
Well, and I mean, I think that's important, and a huge part of recovery in general is finding your tribe, is what I always say, and finding people that you can relate to, that you can actually openly have a dialogue with them and not be frightened of, oh, they're judging me. You know,
I always think the funny thing about people going to rehab, I used to do intake for a treatment center, and people would come in, they're miserable, they're going to jail, they're going to get divorced, their kids won't talk to them, and they're like, oh, I don't want to go into rehab. I'm like, well, you're going to sit in this nice rehab, get 3 meals a day from a chef, and get all this great counseling, and hang out and do sports and chill.
Equine therapy.
Why is that scary, right? But in our minds, we've created this,
it's a dirty word. Rehab is a dirty word.
It's like your life is
stigma.
miserable, but here's a respite, if you will, from the misery that you're encountering in your life, but that's too scary to do it.
Absolutely. It's like, it feels like a punishment, like you're going to jail. Like, this is your sentence for being a really bad girl.
Right.
So now go to rehab for 30 days.
Right.
And if
And
you're
then-
good, then we'll let you out. But if you're not good, you have to stay for 30
But then
more days.
all of your friends are going to talk about what a filthy
Yeah.
human you are.
Yeah, and then you have to come
Right.
back and be around those people, and
Right.
they all know, like,
I
that you're bad.
I honestly loved it. It was like adult summer camp
Me
for
too.
me, man. And I made like some really good friends, like the professor, really good people that I wouldn't have connected with if it wasn't for that, that stint.
I think I secretly liked it too much.
Yeah.
So I ended up there a few times.
That's the thing. Like, I wanted it to be, slightly uncomfortable, where I'm like, okay, cool. I didn't want it to be the 4-star, Ritz-Carlton of recovery. I wanted like where you work. But like, I wanted it to be like, slightly uncomfortable, but not gross,
Yeah.
Roughing it.
Yeah.
I
little
wish
bit.
if I had known then what I know now, I would have 100% gone. Because
Yeah.
it's like, we both host yoga retreats, and it's really kind of like a yoga retreat.
Right.
And we love retreats.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
why not go to rehab?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, one big retreat.
Yeah, for 30 whole days.
30 whole days. I mean, it's amazing.
Oh, that's crazy.
I wish they would, have 30-day rehabs for people that, aren't in their addiction anymore. Just like a 30-day
Like a
insurance
reunion.
covers it,
Right. Oh, well, yeah. Insurance covers it, but
30-day wellness checkup.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sure there are camps.
Inoculation.
You could go to like any kind of eating camp or something like that, or nutrition reset, or
Go to Bali on my retreat. I mean,
Hey,
there you go.
I like the sound of that.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, we need to start doing male-female retreats. For
yeah,
sure.
we do. As of now, you have to be a woman to go.
Well, no. There was a rehab romance, not on my behalf, but my friend. But they're actually still together. So
Yeah,
It worked out.
Yeah.
I do think that's really cool when there's two people that are in recovery that end up dating or getting married. Like, I think that creates a really safe, special
sometimes, but then
Yeah.
sometimes it's like, oh, they're going off the wheels. I'm going to join them.
Yeah. My husband isn't in recovery, like in the sense that I'm in recovery, but
Right.
he actually quit drinking a year before I did.
Oh, wow.
And I think he really probably quit drinking because he was hoping that I would join him. But it's done wonders for our marriage. Like, we were really unhappy before all of this happened.
Sure. Well, I mean, it becomes another job. It's horrible because it becomes another job, and how much effort you have to put in. Like, for example, yourself. Oh, I got to worry about what all these moms think about me. I got to present in front of my kid too, and then the bottle shuffle that goes with that. Okay, I can't just put this in the recycle. Like, I'm telling my stuff, but I mean,
I was like, to Tom Thumb real quick to recycle some stuff.
I would like do it like when I was on my alcohol run. I would take the empties and then go down the alleyway a little bit, dump off all the bottles in my neighbor's stuff because
I mean, that's a lot to do.
Yeah, I know. It was another
a lot of
job
mental
for
space.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, so like, I mean, I know y'all have a podcast on recovery. How did that come about and how did that start?
Yeah. So going back to, Amanda met Megan from Soba Sisters.
Okay.
And then I had actually gone on a retreat as a participant to Bali in 2023, and Megan was the leader.
Okay.
And so we knew her in common, but we actually met through...
And that was a yoga retreat in Bali.
For alcohol-free women.
Oh, okay.
So it's like yoga, women's circles, kind of cultural and spiritual activities.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And so then I ended up working with our yoga teacher in Bali, who is Canadian but lives in Bali, and I did her yoga teacher training online, and Amanda was in my yoga teacher training group. And so we met, and then she introduced me to Cindy, who was leading the Sober in Dallas group, and so we met in person at Sober in Dallas and just kind of went from there, and we both wanted to start a podcast to talk about sobriety and yoga and wellness and those kinds of things. And we're like, well, why don't we just do it together? And so we had that conversation in December, and then we launched the podcast January 1st of this year.
Okay. So awesome. Have y'all, I mean, it sounds fun, like, to do a podcast.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, oh, it looks like so much fun. And then, like, have y'all figured out that it's actually work?
It's some
like
work. Yes, being consistent.
Like, you're like, okay, I have to line up a spot. Well, I mean, do y'all shoot from home?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a virtual studio.
And then you line up guests. And then, okay, well, hopefully they're all going to show.
Yes. If they don't, then she and I just talk about something that we find interesting, and hopefully other people do too.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, they don't, and then you got to cut clips. Then you got to post to all the different platforms.
Media. Yes. Yeah.
Because if it's not on the internet, it did not happen.
It did not.
Yeah.
happen.
And then you gotta set up 5 cameras, and then you gotta switch between the cameras. Then you gotta put name tags. Then you gotta co-host the show. And
well, that's if you're doing it in studio. Yeah.
We haven't gotten that sophisticated yet. Maybe someday.
Yeah. There's a lot that goes into it, but it's cool.
Well, I wanted to say too on the women's front, as a guy, but it's a feedback that I get from a lot of women I work with and peers in the community, is creating a safe space for women to be able to their own spot where they can go and just feel safe, emotionally safe, physically safe, because there's not a lot of that in the community and traditional recovery pathways.
Absolutely.
So I love the fact that y'all are a part of what I see more and more of is women creating women's spaces.
Absolutely. And getting rid of this idea of competition and more like there's room for everyone, and let's cheer each other on and build each other up and walk alongside each other instead of comparing ourselves.
And I love that goes along with the multiple pathways that y'all can create spaces that don't have to look like anybody else's spaces and don't have to include anybody like men.
Yeah.
And I think that's great because I hear all the time, well, I haven't found the space that I need or the pathway I need. Well, people having the autonomy and the inspiration to create their own spaces, whatever that looks like. If you like Star Wars and you're in recovery, go create Star Wars recovery. I don't care.
Absolutely.
Whatever makes you feel good, right?
You'll get a cease and desist from George Lucas, though.
I can
or Disney now.
I think I can take George in a fight.
Yeah, and the retreats, a lot of times, she on her own and me on my own, and then together, we advertise as alcohol-free, but alcohol-free really just means wellness. Because when you visualize wellness, like it should not include alcohol, because then if you were to go to a retreat that has alcohol, you go home feeling terrible.
Right, yeah.
But with that, opening up alcohol.
Let's go do some Bikram yoga.
Yes.
Pass out from
Right,
dehydration.
exactly, yeah.
Yes, with just titling it alcohol-free women, you get women that are not in sobriety, and
Sure.
women that are just coming with a friend or just curious.
Well, believe it or not, there are people that have just never decided to
Absolutely.
drink. I
There
don't know.
are.
I don't know what's wrong with them, but no, I'm just
Yeah.
kidding. But there are just people that I know that have like just
Not into
never
it.
made it a part of their lifestyle.
Yeah, but everybody, I believe, is looking to heal from something, and that's what I have found at the retreats. Even if somebody shows up that is not interested in sobriety, they are interested in healing from something
Right.
that has been extremely painful for them.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a lot of PTSD that goes, unmentioned or anything like that. And I think that that's a key part just in recovery and in life in general that people don't address enough.
Absolutely.
Do y'all find that a lot of people don't understand or have never heard of elective sobriety or sober curious?
I think it's a really new concept for a lot of people. I had never heard of it till like pretty soon after I quit drinking, and I started following different sober accounts and listening to podcasts, and it's like, oh my gosh, there's a whole movement of sober curiosity
Right.
going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the way it just invites people to look at their relationship with alcohol without making any proclamations about their identity or if they'll drink again or how much, or, they can just look, is this working for me?
Absolutely.
Right.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and circling back to what you were talking about, Dusty, with the safe space for women, I think that is so important, and it's really everything, because when you get into a circle with women, whether it's virtual or in person, and everybody's willing to admit that maybe, perhaps, that they have drank too much occasionally, it just makes everybody feel so comfortable that's there, because there's never a time when I'm in a circle of moms where anybody would admit that they might have a problem with alcohol.
But it's funny because there is this whole wine mommy culture.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, girlfriend, let's go do this. But then they don't talk about girlfriend, I did this too many times. You know?
It's almost like you have to drink to be a part of a lot of mom crowds. Like
Sure.
I know a group of moms in the city that I live where they all have these drinking hats, and literally if you're not drinking or participating in that, then you're not going to be invited.
It's funny.
Yeah.
It's very high school if you think about it.
It really is.
It's just like
It really
carries over.
It really
Yeah.
does. Yeah.
And I wanted to mention too, and that's what your take is on this, both of you guys, is that especially in 12-step recovery, courts mandate people with criminal backgrounds to attend meetings, right? And that doesn't create a safe space when criminals are mandated there, not because they want to go there and be in recovery or get sober, but they have to go there because a judge makes them go there.
Right.
And
Court,
so that
court ordered.
that creates an unsafe space,
Yeah.
For other
So-
people or for them or both.
for both, but especially other people.
Yeah.
Well, Chad can speak to that.
I mean, I don't know, man.
Chad's been in the penal system.
The whole idea is whatever gets you into the rooms, man. If you hear something that you can relate with, but most of the people, if they still have ideas, they're not teachable whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
Even though they ended up in prison, even though they ended up in jail, even though whatever the case might be, dude. They're like, oh, dude. And it talks about that in the book. Ironically, it's the great obsession is maybe someday I'll be able to control my drinking. And now, that being said, though, you get people that have been removed from alcohol or removed from drugs, and you put them all into a room together, men and women. Everybody else might not understand this, but dude, people get ridiculous in their other habits. Right? Mm-hmm. That's the best way I can say people get stupid horny, dude. You know what I mean? That's the nicest way I can say that.
They become addicted to other
mind-altering
behaviors.
And then all that stuff happens. And I have friends that are in recovery, and they're, attractive women, and they're kind of new to it or whatever. And it's a dangerous game, dude. It's a dangerous game to be a woman walking in 12-step rooms. It just is, you know. And it's because I don't know, man. It's just one of those things. And you know, I wish that there was, and that's why they have women groups that do that stuff. But yeah, again, it's like,
well, they have women only. They have women's only.
I understand that. That's what I was talking about.
Right.
And they have that, and it's 12-step based. So I think it's really cool that you guys are not doing it as like a 12-step based thing, because the 12-step thing turns a lot of people off, and I completely understand why, because it's, you know, it's kind of the last resort.
Steps,
it's
and
kind
it
of the
seems
last
kind
There's
of
a lot of room before you hit that.
It seems
where you might find another avenue.
I was gonna.
I think too. I call it patterns of avoidance, where people they might be abstinent from drugs or alcohol, but then anything that they don't have to be abstinent from becomes another pattern of avoidance, whether it's sex or shopping or eating.
Yeah.
So,
I think I can also see how 12 steps sometimes it can come across culty. You
Little
know,
dogmatic.
because
Absolutely.
because there's the whole steps and step work, and you know, it's just like, oh, this is kind of
Yeah,
you know,
it seems like that
think,
at first, but
right?
like the
but
irony is, it's a whole lot less work than you'll ever have to put into your active addiction.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, I'm like saying how it seems in the beginning.
Yeah.
But then, like, once you figure it out, it's really basically just a checklist of, hey, man, deal with your shit, you know, and maybe make some amends and all this kind of stuff, and then maybe
help
pay it
other
forward.
people.
Yeah, so it's really, if you look at it from an open point of view, it's not that scary, and it's not, but it can seem that way.
I mean, it's almost like it's a recipe for a spiritual awakening.
Right.
It is.
And that's not the only way to have a spiritual awakening.
Right.
But a spiritual awakening can lead to spontaneous sobriety. And if you follow these steps and you live this lifestyle, you will likely have a spiritual awakening and no longer feel the need to use substances.
Yeah, and that's what the 12-step is, right? It's directly as a result of working these, having had a spiritual awakening as the result
of working these steps.
You know, and there's a lot of other ways to do that and stuff. But when you're, like I said, it's a program that's you know, you get people that have been in there that are like higher, that they call high bottom or whatever. I hate to say that, but like high bottom drunks or you know, people that just were like hard.
They haven't
drinkers
lost
or whatever.
everything.
They haven't lost everything, and they can do it too. But it was like the first people that were doing it, like, dude, they were fucking out there.
Yeah.
You know what I
Right.
mean? Like they were out of options. They have exhausted all of them. And
That was the
another thing
last
that people
resort.
kind of just look down on it because it's fucking free.
Yeah.
Why would I do a free thing when I can just go pay some treatment center to just remove it from me?
Yeah.
But, you know, and when you leave treatment, what do they tell you? They're like,
Right.
hey, go to meetings, get a
90
sponsor.
meetings in 90 days, get a
Exactly.
sponsor, work the steps.
So it doesn't matter how much that treatment center costs. That's what they're going to tell you when you're leaving there, or
Yeah,
else
that's right.
the likelihood is pretty slim.
Go slum it with the rest of everybody.
Thanks for your money.
Yeah, right. Now-
One of
now
the
go slum.
critiques about AA from a female perspective that I have heard is that it's really targeted towards almost like this narcissistic type personality that feels terminally unique, and that women don't necessarily struggle with that quite as much because we've been programmed by society and culture to keep ourselves small and to be polite and to please people, whereas traditionally men maybe haven't been quite so much. And so I don't know, I'm curious what y'all think about that.
Well, Chad's quite the debutante over there.
Well, I don't know, man. I'll tell you what. The whole word narcissistic gets thrown around a whole lot thanks to social media now. So people that aren't actually narcissists are being called narcissists. But
Right. And there's a
everybody
difference
has
between
those-
traits and an actual
Everybody will
disorder.
exhibit
We all have
traits.
narcissistic
Yeah.
traits. I mean, you know,
But,
we are human.
But yeah, I mean, it's like it's at its core. I think it's really kind of rattling core beliefs. I think it really is, and it seems daunting at first to a lot of people. But I know it. I get to see miracles happen all the time. Being in the rooms, being in the IOP stuff that I still attend. Shout out Grace to Change for having free aftercare for life. Not the best business model in the world,
Right.
But I still go up there every now and then. And dude, it's cool to see multiple pathway things working. But the cool thing is when people use separate pathways and work them together.
Yes.
That's when you see people that were fucking, homeless on the street doing whatever, And now
Such as yourself.
They're doing amazing things with their life,
Right.
and they're helping people the entire way.
I like the fact that
Yeah.
you brought up terminal uniqueness, because that was one of the barriers to me exploring the multiple pathways, because every time I thought outside of the box that I was programmed into, because my recovery started out in 12-step recovery as well, and every time I would think outside the box, I'm like, I'm being terminally unique. This is going to kill me. So I had to really break out of that, and once I did, it was pretty liberating, because then I can explore all these different pathways. And then in undergrad, I started learning about the research behind the multiple pathways, which I had never heard before.
Yeah.
And that the research shows that the more pathways that you're exploring, that you're utilizing, the better chances of long-term recovery.
Right.
Dude, Batman would have been
makes
just
sense.
some fucking creep, dude. If he didn't have, he would have been some creep in a bat suit. If all he had was a fucking batarang, he'd have gone to jail. But he had the fucking, he had the grappling hook. He had the button that could bring the car around. Dude, he had all the tools. And everything is just different tools.
And countless
you need a
amount
recovery
of
tool
money
belt.
and
And
resources.
sometimes it's like saying the same thing, but you're just using different words.
Yeah.
Right. Semantics.
Yeah.
Semantic. Hey, real quick, using different words, let's throw to our sponsor, which is Max the X.
Max the X.
If you go to thispinklawyer.com, it will take you to Lone Star Injury Attorneys. He will get the maximum results for your personal injury needs.
Hell yeah.
Right?
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah, brother. And then we also, or Chad, your mom has a book out called twocalls.org.
No, it's
or
not.
that's the website. Book's called Two Calls. Why don't you play the commercial?
Phone call as a parent that your son has been hit by a car and is being life flighted.
2 hours before we got the call, Chad had called me to tell me it was the best day of his life. And then I get another call, and a stranger had found him, and they were care flighting him to a trauma unit, and that he would start praying for our family that we needed to hurry.
You know, when you wake up on the operating table and they're like, we're going to cut off both your legs. And then I wake up and then one's gone, the other one's in an external rod system. It's just not good. The real kicker is that I've had like all of these scars all over my arms, and that's all from complications resulting from drug abuse.
I never thought about giving up on him. Never. This is my son, and I know he's going to be okay. You cannot just have help for the addict. You have to seek out professional help. The whole family has been affected.
And I just want to make that very clear to anybody who's out there listening, that if I can do this thing as much as I've been through, man, there's a lot of wiggle room for people before they get to that point where they can do it too.
All right. And that book is called Two Calls. And if you go to twocalls.org, you can actually purchase the book. But then also,
It's also on Amazon and Barnes & Noble.
right. And y'all are also doing speaking engagements, right?
Yeah, we do speaking stuff. And it's
Little
not all
Sheila?
sad. Little Sheila and Little Chad, we do speaking stuff, man.
Right.
Dude, I'll never forget when I was in jail, this one guy just walked up to me randomly one day. He was like, yo, Little Chad. And I thought that was just the stupidest, funniest thing I'd ever heard in my life.
Nice.
Dude. So anybody with like a 1-syllable name now, or
Lil.
even like a small 2-syllable name, you just put the
Everywhere.
word Lil in front of it. It's great. Dude.
Well, but it kind of fits for Sheila. Because
Yeah.
your mom is short, and she's a fire.
She'd be a hell of a rapper, dude.
She is a firecracker. I tell you what.
Shout out Little Sheila.
Yeah. Hey, and then we also have some new music coming out. Which one are you going to play?
Government.
All right, let's go with it.
There is the constitutional government of the United States, and then there's this other secret government operation, which has more money, more power, more technology. It is a criminal enterprise.
Shadowy government with its own Air Force, its own Navy, its own fundraising mechanism, and the ability to pursue its own ideas of the national interest, and free from the law itself.
Reminds me of my early
All
club
right,
days.
and that one is actually out streaming now, brand spanking new. We even have a video, so go to YouTube and either mine or Chad's and look it up and check it out. It's a pretty fun video.
It'll
awesome.
It'll flash you back.
Right? Yeah, and then it's also streaming on all major platforms, much like this podcast.
Woo!
Yeah.
Shout out podcast.
So I guess we didn't really get into what y'all's podcast is about. I mean, I know y'all do yoga as you hit the yoga pose.
Yes.
So, but explain to somebody like what they could expect if they tune in to y'all's podcast.
Yeah, so we have a section called The Real Sober Stories, and we'll have people come on and share their stories and also a little bit about what they're doing now. A lot of times it changes the trajectory of people's careers, and so they're into coaching or they're teaching some sort of wellness thing like meditation or breath work. So
well, a lot of people get the calling to actually join the, like LCDC. Like a lot of people want to do that immediately out of rehab.
Yes. Yeah. And then really we have different experts come on and talk about different topics that have to do with living alcohol free, with the Sober Curious movement. What else? Yoga.
We just have different topics, I would say, like therapeutic type topics that we just break down. And we did one therapy type session where
we did an experiential exercise on kind of integrating these two different parts of yourselves that want two different things.
Okay. Tell us about that. I'd like to hear.
Yeah. So IFS is a type of therapy that it does parts work. And so you identify, like, there's this one part of me that really wants to quit drinking because it doesn't align with my values. Right. I don't like how it makes me feel. But then there's this other part of me that says, but then I'll become a social pariah and I won't have anything in common with anyone anymore. Mm-hmm. And I won't have any friends. And, everyone will think negative things about me, and that's not an option. And so these two different parts are kind of at odds with each other. And so we kind of went through this exercise where you break it down and you try to find the common denominator. Like, what do these two parts have in common? Right. And really, if you look at those two parts, what they have in common is that they want to be loved. They want to be connected. They want to be accepted and to feel good.
Well, and honestly, I think just life in general, everybody wants to be validated and feel important and feel loved. And, it's okay if you want to wear women's clothing.
Thank you, dude, for finally giving me the okay to do it. Dude. I've been waiting my whole life.
We all want to be heard.
You've been waiting for that permission.
Okay. Yeah. I'm going to go change right now.
Hey, well... I just had to do that. So I think that's interesting that you say that. And honestly, like I was saying, the validation and everybody. Everybody wants to feel useful somehow. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And have some sort of connection.
Yeah. Yes, we have a generative drive. We want to contribute to the world around us and make it even just a little bit better than it was before if we had never lived. And I think every human has that.
Or we just want to matter.
We just want to matter. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And be connected, Chad, like you said. Like, we need human connection. We need attachment. And unfortunately, alcohol makes that seem really simple and accessible. And you think you're having these deep conversations, but then next morning you don't remember it, or you only remember bits and pieces, and then you feel ashamed and you don't even want to see the person again.
Oh, yeah.
It's not exactly connection.
Yeah, I've started a lot of businesses, dude, in bathroom stalls.
That's what you would say is like when you start drinking, and then, of course, the drinker's companion of cocaine goes with that.
Nose nachos.
Nose nachos, yeah.
I heard nose baloney the other day. That was good.
But we're like, dude, let's start a business. That.
Oh my God, that's a fucking great idea. I bet this is how Bill Gates and those guys did that.
Yeah. And when you're sober, sometimes you follow through on that. Like Amanda and I, we started that podcast, and we just released our 30th episode.
Oh wow!
Congratulations!
So yeah, you never know what's possible.
I think a big struggle too for people post abstinence is, what do I do with my life now? Right?
Yeah.
It's there's so much focus on everything except for me internally. So I have this bubble theory where I'm like, just focus which is in your bubble. Don't worry about what's going on at the other side of the world or even across town. focus on you and your spouse or your kids, your household, then your peers, and work your way from the inside outward because it becomes so overwhelming. What do I do in this big world of chaos?
Yeah, start small and stay present.
Yeah, check your bubble.
Dude, one of my favorite quotes that makes no sense out of context, but in this context and in like recovery and in everything else, and it's like, you know, you free yourself or whatever first and then everything else just falls in. It's from Rush Hour 1. And Chris Tucker's like trying to explain to Jackie Chan how to dance. He's just like, free your mind and your ass will follow. And that's like been my experience with like the recovery with anything. Is like once I'm the only thing that gets in my own way at all points in time. And once I can learn kind of tools and everything else to get out of my own fucking way, all of a sudden, like everything else in my life starts looking a whole lot better, man. Because when I'm looking at, you know, I'm looking at life through some glasses that have shit smeared all over them, life looks pretty shitty.
Yeah.
But when I clean those glasses off, oh my God, I can see everything again. And it's just, you know, it's perspective, mindfulness, all that stuff that, you know, yoga and all these other things.
Thanks for classing it up, Chad.
Yeah, man. Well, you're the one who told me to go wear women's clothing. Fucking chotch.
I mean, I love it. It's the paradox, you know. Once you let go of trying to control everything, answers start coming to you, and you realize you're not in control anyway, and that's better.
Yeah,
there's freedom.
And
there.
I
don't want to be in control.
That is so crazy. Like, one thing that I have noticed in recovery is there is no coincidence, and it's just like, you know, it's amazing how once you have that spiritual awakening, how it's just like, oh, that happened. I mean, honestly, like Chad and our story is very serendipitous. You know,
Shout out John Cusack.
Yeah, but it is. But like, I mean, because
Lil Jon.
I was blackout drunk. Chad, active heroin user. He's running sound. I'm DJing, you know, at a spot called Sambuca. Shout out Sambuca. Shout out Lil Buka. But so we're working there at the same time, and then we start talking about music, blah blah blah, and then, you know, I go off. I mean, I don't know. It was about 2019 or so.
No, it was 2017 or 2018.
Yeah, no. But I'm talking about when you disappeared.
Oh yeah.
And
2018.
And then I was going to rehab, and I went to, you know, rehab for 30 days. But then Chad, you know, I was like, well, either he's dead or in jail. And
my rehab lasted about 20 months, and it was free. It was county funded, free at Loose Derrick Motel.
So, but I hit up Lil Sheila.
Shout out Lil Sheila.
And Lil Sheila was around and said, Chad's been trying to get a hold of you. And then you know, Chad and I reconnected via, well, it wasn't a collect call, but it was.
No, I had minutes on my phone.
I had minutes.
Lil Sheila hooked it up.
Lil Sheila hooked it up.
She's there for you.
But of course, Chad, but I love this. Chad trying to, oh, hey, dude, this is bullshit. They got me in here on some bullshit stuff. Hey, won't you, we co-sign for this shit? Co-sign for my bond. I'm like, yeah, dude. My wife will love that. That's an excellent idea.
Fuck no.
Hell no.
No, he put it off on put it off on his wife. He's like, I asked Waverly. She said no.
Yeah, I go, dude. Yeah, I don't think that's going to go over with Waverly. Well, I mean, you know, there was just.
We had this conversation.
That was just like, no way I was going to do it.
You lied to me. And I'm glad that it worked out, but you lied to me.
Yeah, I did.
It's worked out.
Let you down easy.
Yeah. But then, you know, Chad, you know, he gets out, and then, okay, so I'm doing this podcast. He knows how to engineer. He can talk to the whole heroin side of things. I can talk to the alcohol side of things. And I'm just like, okay, well, it really...
I can talk to the alcohol side of things,
really,
too. I was really good at that
It's really ironic, though, that all this stuff just amazingly happens.
Absolutely. Well, and you were both wanting to get in touch with each other at the same time and didn't know it.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, and that's the whole, like, idea of mindfulness is the interconnectedness of the universe.
Absolutely.
Right? From what I understand. And I'm very minimal in my understanding of mindfulness, but that's the way I look at it.
I think you're right on track. You know, we're really not all that different. You know, we're all the same on the inside.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're all connected. And I think when you remove alcohol and other substances, you kind of take away that veil and you can see that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, we're all just a bunch of little cosmic particles
Stardust.
floating through a bunch
We're
of
all just walking
nothingness.
each other home.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that is kind of like, one of the theories, like I mean, to me, when my mom passed away, it was like, what's the point of this, man? What is the point of life in general? And then we had, Grandma Shirley.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she came on. She
trip,
is a tribal elder, and she came on, and the answer that I got, which I'm hanging on to, is that we are here to learn from our experience.
And pass it on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
I like it.
I can go
Yeah.
with that.
I think we're here to find our purpose. And that's part of it, and then to live it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if we get lucky enough to be able to pass the keys on to the person after us, then, that's cool. But a lot of people don't give two shits about that. I like to, though, because, if I can save somebody a little bit of time, it's a life well lived.
I think legacy is important.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's also a street in Plano. It's always under construction.
And a shopping center, right?
Right.
The legacy of legacy is construction.
Dude,
Infinite.
dude, every time I'm driving down Parker Road, I'm like, dude, what the fuck do they have going on in this town?
It's under constant.
Shout out City of Plano. Shout out Little Plano, dude.
Little
for fucking
Plano, what's up?
misusing funds for, drug treatment things and putting them into your fucking streets.
They're going to come after me.
Well, so if people want to find your podcast, where can they do that?
Yeah, wherever they listen to podcasts, we are on.
Are you streaming on all major platforms?
We are streaming on all major platforms.
And do y'all have a website?
We have a website. I think that really our personal websites are probably the best way to find us.
Okay.
So janewballard.com and empoweredhealthyharmony.com for Amanda. Is that right?
Okay. And then
Yeah.
y'all just have links to that, and then
We have links to that, and then we're both on Instagram. That's probably the social media outlet that you'll find us
hit
at
us
the
up.
most.
Hit us up on the gram or the book.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, that's
Yeah.
cool because and y'all were saying this earlier. I mean, I'm like, as far as like podcasts and everything, I'm like, I didn't corner the market. I didn't invent the podcast. I'm like, man, the more we have a dialogue about stuff like this and be open about it and
Destigmatize it.
I think the better off we are. So
Right. I think we just got to contribute to the ongoing conversation about sober curiosity and destigmatizing looking at sobriety. Sobriety is not a dirty word.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anybody else got anything or?
But you, Dusty, dude,
What
you want to
about-
put that mic in front of
Yeah,
your face
what about
and figure
you,
it out?
Dusty? Yeah, what's up, little Dusty?
Just want to shout out to my team, my MST team at Life Path.
Okay.
Shout out to my team at Sessions Wellness Group
Word.
and my mama, Nana.
Yeah. What is?
Shout out Lil
I-
Nana.
I don't even. What is your mom's name?
Joan.
Joan.
Shout out Lil Joan.
Shout out, Lil Joan.
Yeah, so 3 mama's boys here.
Oh,
If y'all
yeah.
hadn't
I
figured
like
that
it.
out
That's
yet,
amazing.
so-
I love it.
Yeah, so moms are great.
Yeah.
And I got 2 awesome kids too. I haven't shouted out to them in a while. Austin and Sid.
Okay.
Fixing to move out next month. I'm going to be an empty nester. So.
Oh, nice. Okay.
But yeah, if you want to reach out to me, you can reach me at dusty@sessionswellnessgroup.com or dburrows@lifepathsystems.org.
Okay. And might I applaud you today? You have been less jittery. So the whole non-caffeine thing, I think you got something, buddy.
Health and wellness.
There we go. Well, other than that, do y'all have anybody? We always like to give the guest a chance to shout anybody out or whatever.
Sure. Shout out to my boys. Hopefully they're mama's boys as well. But shout out to Miles and Logan.
Right?
Yeah,
I think every boy is a mama's boy.
Well, they
To
should
be
be.
honest.
They should be if they're smart.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll shout out to my boy, Benjamin Ballard, and my 2 girls, Anne Marie and Eleanor, and my lovely spouse, Kyle.
Okay.
Love them.
Y'all.
All right. Well, that
That's a
was
lot
fun.
of air horns.
Yeah, I know.
That's a lot of air horns.
Woohoo!
All right, man. Well, shout out to little Sheila. Shout out, little Sheila. Shout out. God damn it. Why didn't the button work?
Now
There
it's
we go.
not working.
There we go. That's fucked
Now
up.
it's working.
I screwed it up.
Well, yeah, I appreciate you guys coming out here. It's been fun. And of course, we would love to be on your podcast.
Yeah, we would love
that's,
to have you.
yeah.
Throw that out there, dude.
I got it.
We got
now
video
I got
footage,
Now I
yeah.
got video footage. They said it. They said it. I made them say it. I made
I
them.
mean,
Right.
we definitely
We'll
be
have
honored.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be fun. So, well, I appreciate you guys coming on. Dusty, making the journey.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah.
It's good to see you guys.
And
You too, man.
And I get to actually meet them in person. We
Yeah, you were actually
That was
on there.
fun.
Yeah.
What were their names again?
Yes, you're one of our.
Amanda and Jane.
There you go.
There we
Put me
go.
on the
You
spot
did.
earlier, and I flubbed it up.
What? So, and you were actually on their
Yes.
podcast,
Just
right?
several weeks ago.
And called
Cool.
the Bearded Wonder.
Yeah, they didn't.
What
call me
was
that.
what was the episode?
It
It
was
was about plant medicine, I believe.
Yeah, it was
Oh.
about plant medicine. I can't remember what we called it.
Oh, imagine that.
But it's been popular.
Plant medicine from a professional
I was going to
dingus.
say, imagine that from Dusty. Something about psychedelics.
I like plants.
You know, I didn't know you knew anything about plant medicine, dude. That's cool.
But no, yeah.
We'll have to talk about
I
some
noticed,
research.
I noticed every time you name an episode, if I can name it ayahuasca something, it'll blow
Everybody
up.
wants to listen.
Yeah, it's like, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But I can tell you my ayahuasca experience on the show.
Yeah, I really do want to hear that.
Yeah, it was different.
I've heard about the purging. When I heard about the purging, I was like,
You were like, I'm out.
I'm out.
I'm out. All right. Well, thank y'all for coming on. I appreciate it. And then remember, kids, there is no magic pill for sobriety, because if there was, we would all take too many.